You will.
So
Stop.
for saran wrap, you'll cut off a length of saran wrap and lay it flat onto the table, so not too large because you don't want it to start sticking to itself. You'll then take packing tape and lay a length from side to side. Oh, my scissors are gone. From side to side so that the tape sticks onto the table and you have it secure. It's not going to float around. Now the trick is to keep the tape from sticking to itself. If it does, then just start again. It's easiest to keep the tape secure on the edge of the table. And you don't lose the end and it doesn't stick to itself. And you just lay rows of tape edge to edge on the table so that you essentially lay down another sheet of plastic on top of the saran wrap. Okay, and then flip that over, again trying to avoid it sticking to itself. And you're going to add another layer of tape. And you can see that each time I'm holding the end of the tape so that it doesn't stick to itself. I have to keep that in one hand. Sometimes it's helpful to have two people do this. One person cuts the tape and the other lays it out. So if you're working in pairs, that's probably the easiest way to do it, especially for the smaller kids.
Cool.
So now you have essentially a piece of fabric. So the tape, I'm going to just stick the end at the end of the table. You have a plastic fabric, plastic sheet that you're going to use to make something. Same thing will go for tin foil, and in the interest of time, I'll just make a small sample. You'd pull off maybe double this size of paper. So same thing. Lay the tape edge to edge. If it's a little wrinkled, it's fine. This is very forgiving. It makes a nice texture also. And the tape makes a really great, a different kind of shine on the foil. It's nice.
Cool.
So the third version is the same thing with newspaper. Or you could also use images from magazines. Depends on what your students will like. Here is a sample using newspaper. And we just used one large sheet and added a picture of Chrissy Hind for fun. So newspaper, same thing. Inside and the outside are both coated with strips of tape. So here's again the fabric that you'll be working with. So to fashion something, you can work very freehand to make something like this, like almost like a cone. You could cut, and this will be a small one, a circle that will form the bottom of your bucket, and then a strip, which hopefully I have enough here. We'll see. And this is not ideal. I'm doing a very quick demonstration that will wrap around the circumference. Here's your math of the circle that you've cut out. So here I have a bucket. What I'm going to do is take small pieces of tape to help me join it together. Again, the tape is very forgiving, and you can start to build a little three-dimensional bucket by taping these two pieces together. And adding tape along the edges to bring the two pieces together, but of course they are in different surfaces. They don't meet, well, they meet at an edge. Now I don't have quite enough of this strip, but I'll show you how you can again Oh, I might have just enough. Look at that. It just matches. Okay, so here's a tiny version. The bottom is fairly secure, but I've only tacked it on with small pieces of tape. So I'm going to add some more to make it a little more secure. I didn't cut my circle very round. If I'd taken more time, I would have made a little bit of a better circle. I'll just add tape along the bottom. And there you have a very small bucket, much smaller than probably most kids would want, only because I made a very small sample of the tin foil. So you could add a handle of any sort. Here's some leftover that I have. And it can be as simple or as complicated as you want. Now, the interesting thing, and it can be attached again with tape to do something like this. So that looks almost like a tin can bucket. You can add words to the tape that you lay into the tape as you're making the fabric. Words that you would cut out of a magazine or a newspaper. You can also use a Sharpie to add handwritten words. So this is a very large, tall bucket, probably for your kids, nothing more than 6 or 8 inches. I would cut this one down, and I could do that right now. It's a bit unwieldy, because you want to think that you're working with smaller hands. So there you go. And if you mess up, you get to trim it a little bit. If you need to add some on, you can do that. So there's a shorter bucket. So there's 2 silver buckets. Now the same thing you would do with the saran wrap fabric that you've made. You could also incorporate tin foil into the saran wrap if you wanted to mix the 2. So again, I have here a very large sheet, and I would think maybe if you weren't able to cut your own shape, this is a bad example, but you could also trace a circle, right, if you need to. You could use something to trace the shape if you needed to cut a circle. You could also make a square bottom if you wanted. Maybe I'll do that with this one. So I'll cut this. I'm going to trim off the extra tape on either end. It's not so useful, and it kind of gets in the way because it's sticky. And I'm going to fold this into 4s because I'm going to make a square bucket. So fold it in half first, then fold it back to the middle, and again back to the edge. And I have roughly 4 equal parts. So I'll recrease this all going in the same direction and use my fingernails to make a good crease. And there I have a square vessel. And I'm going to tape off the side. So to do that, I'm going to lay my fabric flat on the table and put the tape just overlapping one edge and bring the 4th side around. And I have a square. Now I'm going to cut the bottom of that with the rest of the fabric that I have. So the kids don't have to make a bucket per se, any kind of vessel, and my guess is they'll come up with much better ideas or designs than I have. So what you want to do is measure what you already have formed from the 4-sided square. And I'm rushing this. I'm not taking time to measure it. I've already made it too small. So I'm going to move over here. Always cut a little larger than you think you need. You can always trim it. Better measure twice, cut once. It's the old carpenter's trick. So then I would start with one edge, tape it. I'd have some pieces of tape ready, or my assistant, because I'm working in groups, will have some pieces already cut. So I will, again, lay that halfway on the edge and slip that to the bottom and fold it here. And you can see now the bottom is too large, but I can trim it. Better trim it than having to add on. And I cut this not very well. Now this is a very loose bottom, I would now take more tape and with more care and time make a better seal. I would also take my scissors to trim the edges to make it follow the contours of the vessel, which they're not exactly square. Make it a little bit more elegant, which the students will do. So here's another more square kind of vessel made out of Saran wrap and tape. I'll get some Sharpies and you can see what you can do. So if I just want to write something, I don't know if that's going to be reversed or not, but that says hello. And it's permanent. You could also then lay tape over top of it and you'll protect it too. So, Sessa?
Great.
That's it.
That looks so simple and nice. How long did that take us? I wonder if it says on the video how many minutes that.
11. Oh, it's still going.